I'd love to introduce Anna Porter from Suburbanite tonight. Welcome, Anna. I think everyone should give Anna a quick applause. So, I had the opportunity to interview Anna probably about a month or so ago, and I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of her history as concise as possible, and then we're just going to get into a sort of very informal Q&A. So Anna got her start in business whilst working with her husband in a mechanical business. Being a day-to-day role, dealing with marketing, staff and books, she soon realised that working with her husband was not a great thing. Anna's background was in property, and she decided to venture out on her own, picking things she liked to do. Not what the market wanted. She lost her passion and swallowed her pride and started again. At that time, Anna was raising 2 children, spending time at home and teaching at TAFE. What started out as helping friends buy properties because they didn't know how to investigate, the passion returned to fill a market niche not being catered to that was affordable and sustainable. Anna's now developing a TAFE property evaluation and investment course and running corporate events, and Suburbanite has a presence in Sydney, Brisbane and Melbourne. The mechanics business was sold, and hubby is a stay-at-home dad who tinkers around in his own epic cave of awesome. So Anna, can you maybe give us a rundown a bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. It is an awesome cave of man awesomeness. We're getting a plaque made up and everything. So my business specialises in property investment and buyers advocate services. We basically help buyers and investors do it with confidence. You know, there's a lot of people out there helping sellers, not a lot of people out there helping buyers. My background is I'm a property valuer by profession. I was a valuer for a few years, like a decade, and then decided it was time for a bit of a career change and had that gap where we had the kids and all that sort of stuff. And it sort of evolved from there, and it has done it very, very quickly. It's been a whirlwind for a few years. Excellent.
So what did you learn running the mechanics business, and sort of how did you sort of apply that to the new business?
I learnt so much. We bought the mechanics business as an established 22-year-old business with staff and customers, and then I went out and started a startup business and thought it would be a piece of cake. I was wrong. But from the mechanics business, there's some core things that I learnt that I could bring into this business. The first one is have your accountant on speed dial. Seriously, our accountant his name's in my phone more than my husband's, which worries him a little bit. Not only for strategic advice, financial advice, but if you have a think about it, and the accountants in the room will be able to attest to this, you guys see businesses succeed and fail every day. Hundreds of them, thousands of them. So your accountant can be a wealth of knowledge in business in general. There's products we've looked at launching and things we've looked at doing, and the accountant's been able to give us advice about what they've seen work and not work through those sorts of things in other businesses, obviously, without giving away confidential information, but just some things to be wary of. That's really valuable advice. The other thing that I've learnt is systems and processes are so important for a couple of reasons. One, it makes your business able to be handed over on sale for a holiday. God forbid a holiday, how good would that be? And it also gets it out of your head so that you don't go batshit crazy. To be honest, when you're lying awake at 2 a.m. and everything's up in your head, as the business grows and grows, that's not sustainable. It's just not. And then you make mistakes and you lose customers. So getting those systems and processes in place in the early days is so much easier to grow through that way. Because when we bought the business, some things were there and some things weren't. So, and that really leads into the big one I learned is about making a business saleable and actually having an asset. So it's one thing to build it to this great big business, and a lot of people take on a lot of business debt when they buy a business or when they start up, and then they don't pay it off. There's not a lot of tax incentive to pay off your business debt, is there? It's kind of the opposite. So then when you sell the business, do you actually have any equity in it, or are you just using it as a function to pay out a loan that you still have? So actually putting in a plan, we put in a 5-year plan in the mechanics business to pay down our business debt, so that when we actually sold it, we got that money, and it felt so good. So good. It felt like we'd worked so hard for something instead of going, thank you for the money. There you go, Mr. Bank. That was fun. 5 years of our life later. So, and that then again ties into those systems and processes, because they're the things that make you be able to hand over a business as an asset and walk away from it, and occasionally have that holiday.
Cool. You've kind of covered the next question. So, anywho, so you mentioned hassles with staff in running the mechanics business. What have you sort of done differently to have such a dynamic team across Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane?
So, in the mechanics business, I think a few of you from probably more trade-based professions will find this is so, it's really hard to get and keep good staff. They don't get paid well enough, and we were competing with things like them going off to the mines, where they would get paid 3 times what we could pay them. So, I mean, we put an ad in the paper, well, not the paper, sorry, on Seek for a mechanic once, and we had a guy ring us and say that he lived in some country I've never heard of, and he'd worked on tractors and wanted to come to Australia to work on cars. I was like, wow, this is really, really disheartening. After 20 more of those applications, we really decided to take the ad down. So in my business, I'm kind of lucky, I must admit. I'm a bit luckier in the sense that I can draw from the profession of valuers, which are admittedly underpaid and overworked as an industry. So when I go to them and say, here's some work-life balance, here's the fun part of your job, and here's some good money, they go, oh, thank you so much, you're the best. So I get these really highly skilled professionals that work really, really hard. But it's keeping them that way, you know. It's building the culture of support. It's building a culture where, you know, it's not an I. There's no individual incentives in our office. It's a team bonus. And if we have a good month, the receptionist gets a bonus, I get a bonus, the team gets a bonus. That's just how it works. Every single person in our office knows they're accountable for our successes and our failures. At all different levels, that's just the reality of our office. And if you're not on board with that and you have to be tightly managed, you're not the right fit for us. It's built a really good culture so far. We've been very lucky to have people that are on board with that culture. And I remember an old boss of mine gave me some fabulous advice, which was always praise in public, but reprimand in private. And I thought that was really, really key to keeping that culture right.
Cool. I'll have to quote that on Facebook, I think. What are the 3 lessons in business that you've sort of learnt so far?
I don't know, what are they?
Systems and processes.
Yes. So
Count and speed dial.
Yep.
What else did you have?
I think we covered. Did we cover that?
Pay down your debt,
Yeah.
and then you added a 4th.
Yeah. So the
The 4th was don't let the business consume you.
Ah, yes, that old gem. So we have covered the first 3. Counting on speed dial, make sure you pay down your debt and have a saleable asset and systems and processes. But my 4th one, don't let the business consume you, as Dan just said. And by that, what do I mean? When we bought the mechanics business, I sat down and talked to a good friend of mine who owned a building company once upon a time and sold it. And I said to him, why did you sell your business? He was actually a TAFE teacher. I said, why did you sell your business and go into TAFE? Because you seem like you would be a natural at running a business. You're so methodical. And he said, well, I let it consume me. I remember one Christmas Eve, I had a client ring and say, my light fitting's out, or whatever crazy, stupid, small thing it was on a new built house. And we can't sit in the dining room in the dark on Christmas Day. So he left his children, left his family Christmas Eve at 11 o'clock at night and spent half the night at their house fixing their light on their new house. And he said, it ate me alive, the business. And he let it. And he said, and just quietly, I see a little bit of that in your husband. He can't say no, so just watch that space. He might burn out, which he nearly did, in all honesty. So I've learnt the lesson from that is you just cannot let it consume you. You have to stop sometimes and say, like, I mean, we're all going to work long hours. I'm not saying knock off at 5 o'clock. That's not reality. But pick some moments for yourself. And I'm really only learning this myself a bit in the last 6 months. Pick those things you like to do. I've just gotten back into horse riding because I love it. And I take myself away every Saturday morning and I clear my head and I just make sure it's not going to consume me. The P&L will still be there tomorrow morning. You know, that month where the bills pile up and the income doesn't look so fantastic, that you'll get through that. You know, all those things come and go. The staff member that just gave you a mouthful of cheek, they'll still be there tomorrow. You can ring Karen and she'll deal with it. So that's the sort of thing where you've just got to kind of sometimes let go of it a bit, which is really hard. I found that challenging going into state a bit as well. You can't be in every location at once. So you've got to let go. Easier said than done.
I'm trying to be omnipresent, but I'm sorry, all the religious people in the room. So give us a few sort of crowning achievements, the kinds of things that you can sort of look back on and say, you know, hey, I've done good, I've done well.
It's been a pretty big year. I must say I struggled when you asked me this question in the original interview. I went, there's been a few things, but I talk about property all the time. Talking about myself is a little bit more confronting, I must say. This year's been epic. We've had some really amazing achievements. We have become the preferred service provider for Yellow Brick Road Wealth Management across a huge chunk of their network, and they saw us, saw me present at a seminar, and we'd already been doing a lot of work at branch level, and the CEO tapped me on the shoulder and said, we want to talk about how we can take this throughout the network with you. And take it to another level. So we're in the process of working with them. We're getting a lot of leverage and become a preferred provider through a lot of the MLC advice network, and I can tell you now they're so strict who they let anyone work with. We've had to be vetted and vetted and vetted again. So that's really exciting for us. Sharing the stage with Mark Burris came out of this as well, so that was a little bit of a highlight, I must say. He's just as cute in real life, ladies, just so you know. He's just as cute.
Don't tell Cindy.
So we presented at a workshop he was at. We've done other presentations as well now that have involved him and Andrew Morello. Andrew Morello isn't as cute in real life. He is as big in real life as he looks on TV, but he is adorable, absolutely adorable, dynamic person. So that's been really exciting. Branching out interstate has been a huge thing in such a young business, going into Brisbane and Melbourne and actually becoming profitable in Brisbane already we launched that last September. We're now profitable, which we thought 6 months we wouldn't make $1. We'd sort of budgeted for that. So there's a few little high fives going around the office at the moment, I must say. Having the pleasure of working with an awesome team, I've been really lucky to get the team I've got. And we also became the preferred service provider for a company called MoneyWise Global, which are owned by Flight Centre and have a lot of leverage with Optus in Flight Centre, and they're very exclusive to corporates. And I must say, sitting in that room, that was the first meeting I had with someone important, but little old me didn't know he was important. So I went into this meeting, I'd met, it was quite funny how it came about. I met the guy that was one of the state managers or something like that through a friend, and everyone calls him Woody. So Woody, who I play football with, go have a meeting with Anna. Okay, Woody, he's really easygoing, all of that. And he said, you should meet my boss. We're starting to get this arrangement in place where it was looking like we were going to become the exclusive service provider. They had these different departments to the business. There's a financial planning arm, the lending and the accounting. So Woody oversaw one division, so I thought his boss must have maybe overseen a few of the divisions. So I sit down, and this big imposing man sits down with me. And I said, hi, I'm Anna. So what do you do? What are you in charge of? And he looked at me and said, everything. I went, as in everything in New South Wales or the financial planning division? Or I'm the global business leader. Have a seat, young lady. I think I peed myself. I was like, okay, you're sort of important. I think I'll take a deep breath. Let's go for this. So that was just an incredible experience to sit down, and he was hard work, I tell you. Anyone that does disc profiling, he was a D and a D and a bit of a C and a D, and he was scary. But, that then built me up to say, okay, so now I'm going to sit in front of the CEO of Yellow Brick Road. Now I'm going to sit in front of all these people in compliance at MLC, and then we got these wins, these wonderful wins that kept coming.
That's incredible. So you mentioned Mark Brewer, so I guess he's your business hero?
To some extent, yes. I think the reason I have so much respect for him is because he really is just a down-to-earth guy. Like, he's really non-imposing. He doesn't put himself on a pedestal when you get to talk to him. But truth be known, that would be my business hero that's known in the public. Truth be known, my true business hero was an old boss I used to have, which no one would know. He owns Heron Todd White Property Valuers, which is quite a big valuation firm, one of the biggest. And I remember he used to tell me this story. The reason I have so much respect for him as a business owner is, one, because he commanded respect off everyone but was never on a pedestal. He would get in there and do the groundwork with every single person around him. So he's running the business in the back end, and he's out there holding your hand on everything you needed your hand held on and doing all the crappy stuff no one else wanted to do. So he was knowledgeable and he was one of the team. But he also built this business so incredibly. So it was him and two other business partners, and he told me this story about how when they started in their office in Canberra. There was 3 of them and a milk crate. And they all stood around the milk crate and went, right, so what are you going to do today? Stuffed if I know. What are you going to do today? Stuffed if I know. I'm going to do what he's going to do today. And it was a whole lot of nothing. And they stood there and they went, all right, well, when the first job comes in, we'll put this bell on the front counter and we'll ring it. First job came in, they're dancing around ringing the bell. And then the 100th job came in. they're ringing their bell, and the 1,000th job, and then the 10,000th job, and then they're opening offices in Sydney, 3 offices in Sydney, Botany, Bella Vista, CBD, Canberra, Southern Highlands, Wollongong. They've got this list of offices they own in 10 years, hundreds of employees. And you know what? Every single day he'd still come in, and a crappy job would come in, you'd go, okay, so I've got to drive to Goulburn for this, and it's out the back of nowhere, who wants it? And he'd go, I'll take it, I'll do it. You guys have worked really hard, I'll do it. You know, he'd always be the first one in and always the last to leave, and there's nothing he wouldn't do. You put a dish in the sink, he'd go and wash it. It's just the kind of guy he was. I had a lot of respect for him as a business owner.
You should probably come and do the dishes at my place.
I'll ask him.
I don't have a dishwasher. Anywho, what's your favourite business book? What are you reading at the moment?
Oh, look, I am currently reading Good to Great. Very slowly, I might add. I don't have a lot of time at the moment. I think about a third of the way in. Oh, fantastic. I would say my favourite business book is E-Myth by Gerber. I think it's Gerber, if you've read that one. Fantastic book, especially in the earlier stages of a business, trying to get your head around how you are everyone to everything. And then I think Good to Great may overtake it once I get to the end, but I should probably wait till I'm at the end before I make that big claim.
Cool. We've actually got those links on the website, so you can click through and get the Kindle version or the Amazon book at Amazon as well.
Look at this guy.
Yeah,
how organised.
So this is probably the hardest question most people find, is what's been the most profound life-changing thing that's happened to you personally or in business, and how did it affect the business? How did you get through it?
I must say I struggled with this question a bit too when we got to this one. Look, I'm going to go back to this good old thing you probably hear a lot of women carrying on about, is the having children and juggling the business thing. And I thought I had it down pat until I actually did it. Wow, isn't that crazy? So when I started the business, I had a newborn, and I had a, how old was he, 15-month-old? And I thought this would be a bit of a spare time kind of hobby on the side. I thought I'd do what I wanted to do in the property stuff, and I'd nail it. Funny thing, I didn't, because you got to listen to what other people want from you, not what you want to give them. Funny how that works. So now I had to swallow my pride, as Daniel said, and start again, and that was really hard because I pumped money and time and energy into it. But then when I got the formula right, it took off, and it took off quickly. And my baby now is maybe 6 months old. By the way, she didn't sleep for the first 4 months of her life. She screamed. And my son's, a little toddler, and it got overwhelming. I'm sitting in my back family room. I have 2 staff working out of my family room now, and 2 kids at the front of the house, and nannies on call left, right and centre, and grandparents, and my kids didn't know who I was by this stage, and juggling it all, and a new employee is starting on Monday, and I'm looking around going, okay, the only place for him to sit is on my lap. I don't think Karen, our HR manager, will like that. He might be okay with it, but I'm pretty sure Karen won't be. We need to get an office. And so then we go out on the hunt for an office. But then, the kids are in daycare. My husband's running a business. He's working till 11 or 12 o'clock at night. So I'm racing back to get kids. I'm racing off. And there were these moments. There's moments where I'd come home and I'd sit on the kitchen floor and I'd have 2 kids sitting beside me screaming, crying. I'd be sitting on the kitchen floor crying with them because I was overwhelmed and exhausted, and I hadn't slept, and I'd been up till 2 a.m. with these babies and still trying to run a business. Bottle of wine in hand, mind you. That was just to try and get me through that night. And it was just too much. It was just too much. And then, there was these moments where my cleaner rings me and says, hey, Anna, I hear you're a bit overwhelmed. And I go, yeah, I've been really busy. Thanks for asking. What makes you think that? Oh, because your house is too messy to clean. Oh, are you kidding me? She said, it takes me 45 minutes just to clean up the rubbish, just to clean the house. I'm like, yeah, that's a problem. That is a problem. That's just another sign that I'm not coping. And then comes the family members, and you guys, everyone in this room probably would have experienced this. People that don't own businesses do not get it. Friends and family, where have you been? Why aren't you coming to the family things? Why aren't you coming over to see grandma? Why aren't you coming over to this birthday party? Why aren't you doing, well, because I haven't seen my daughter for 5 days and she doesn't know what I look like, but sure, you should go right to the top of the list. I'm sorry I haven't done that, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, constant I'm sorries. And then before you know it, they're unfriending you on Facebook and telling you that you're a horrible person and you don't make an effort. And you're like, wow, just another example of where it's overwhelming and I'm dropping these balls. So that was when I had to make some lifestyle changes. So my husband and I sat down and said, whose business is it? We can't do both. The reality is, with 2 little babies, we can't do both. And my mum was so over being a babysitter by then too, I must say. So we decided to sell his business, and that was a huge leap. You know, suddenly I'm the sole breadwinner. I am looking after a young family in a business that was admittedly not even 12 months old. And it's like, wow, do we actually do this? We've got mortgages, we've got investment properties, we've got 2 dogs the size of horses, we've got Ridgebacks. Like, they cost $50 a week to feed, let alone the children. So you take that leap of faith, and then I must say for us it worked. It was the scariest time of our life. You know, and even though we got some money from the business, we still had a huge amount of household debt and investment debt and things like that. And I then could turn around to my cleaner and say, don't worry, he's got it. Hubby's got it. He'll clean the house up before you come. It's all good. Thank you for telling me I live in a pigsty. Appreciate it. It's been real. So, you know, and then suddenly the bottle of wine isn't happening on the kitchen floor with screaming children around you. Everyone's in bed when they're meant to be, and dinner's cooked, and you come home and you can sit and enjoy a bottle of wine. But it took dropping everything to realise that I actually wasn't coping, and it actually really made me realise who some of my friends were and who they weren't, and which family members are there and which aren't. And it was a huge eye-opener as to who sticks with you. And surprisingly, a lot of business people stood around me. Like, people in this room would pick up the phone and say, hey, seeing you're not coping, I get it, I've done it, how can I help? And that's a pretty amazing feeling when you find those people in life.
Excellent. I'm tired just listening to all that. I might actually start drinking. No one knows I don't actually drink, except for, what is it, Toblerones? Anyway, I've got chocolate.
If you have kids, you'll start. I didn't drink much before children
I don't
either.
have children. I've got a boxer. Anyhow, yeah, I should drink. So I think that's probably ended for Anna. Thank you very much, Anna, for that. Let's have some Q&A. Who's got some questions for Anna?
That's a good question. Thank you. So we exclusively work with buyers and investors. With investors, we work around, the first thing is getting the strategy right. You know, there's a lot of different ways to invest, and we've got to match up your goals with the strategy. You know, is your goal to retire comfortably, or are you planning on going on a big holiday next year where you want to sell everything out and move on? You know, so there's totally different needs and wants. Are you replacing income, or are you thinking about, you know, when I sell my business, where is my money going to come from? So we work with investors to first develop the strategy, and then we can go and find the property that actually delivers that. Or sometimes the investors will go off and find the property themselves, and then we sort of mentor them through that process. And the big one is always saving the money on the negotiations, because while I love some of the real estate agents out there, they're sneaky little things. That's their job, you know. They want to make you pay too much, and that's their job, and they've got some good tricks, I can tell you. So we always want to make sure our investors aren't paying too much. And then for home buyers, I mean, look at it at the moment. Those of you that are either been in the market, trying to get into the market, have children getting in the market, feeling priced out, feeling overwhelmed, just feeling like you can't afford any of the properties that you like, missing out again and again. This is stuff we hear every day. It's taking home buyers through that process. We negotiate for them, give them the confidence to move forward, make sure they don't make any costly mistakes. We actually had a client recently, just to give you an example. She found a property, she loved it, she was ready to buy it, flicked the contract off to the solicitor, rang us, negotiate, it's going to happen, it's in a beautiful little quiet street. And we did a bit of research and looked into it a bit. And I rang her and I said, oh, did you want to buy a freeway with your new house? She was like, a what now? I said, well, it's not on any of the government websites yet, but if you look at the surrounding zoning, which admittedly most buyers don't, there's actually a corridor that's been rezoned for main arterial road, and it's right next to your house that you're buying. She went, oh, that could affect value, yeah? I'm like, oh, yeah. She'd actually lost her house in the Brisbane floods many years earlier, and the insurance company didn't pay out, so she's already been through a pretty horrible property experience. So she just went, oh, you know, I could have done it again. And she rang me and said, but the solicitor just told me the contract's fine. Are you sure you've got it right? And I said, well, it doesn't touch the property, the freeway, so of course it's not going to come up in the contract. They don't look at the surroundings. And then she said to me, God love her, she said, you're right, the real estate agent must have forgot to mention it. Yes, that he must. So that's the sort of stuff we do, is not just about the money and the right property and the right strategy and all that sort of stuff, but make sure that our buyers aren't making costly mistakes. Keeping you know, as I say to clients all the time, it's not just getting you into the good investments that it's important, it's keeping you well away from the bad ones is what you'll really thank us for. So that's what we do. We work with home buyers and investors exclusively, give them comfort, give them confidence, and save them money.